voice of sin's tyranny.
All right, good evening. I have a new battery in my mic, so I won't cut out tonight, maybe like I did this morning. That's right, oh darn, I can turn it off. However, if you are here with us in the auditorium, there is no mute button. We are glad you are here, whether you are online or in person, and we'll be asking our new worship pastor, Brandon, please take a seat and shut his mouth. No, Brandon is social. No. Hey, you had your turn. It's somebody else. You want to come up here and answer some more questions? No, I'm teasing. I'm glad to see Brandon here. Continue to pray for him. His kids are still sick. His wife is dealing with it. We are anticipating that they have located his belongings and they will be delivered to his house Wednesday. As soon as we confirm that, we'll get an email out and get some of you guys to help us unload his shipping pods. But tonight's not about Brandon. We're glad Brandon's here. We're glad his family's here and appreciate what God's doing through them. But this is for Josh and Richelle. Y'all heard Josh this morning. We're able to see him. Well, tonight's an opportunity for you to ask him questions. Now, there's a number on the screen, or there will be a number on the screen, where you can text in questions. This was originally designed for people online to text questions that we could then relay. However, a number of you in the room have also chosen to do that. But it would be much better if you came up to this mic and introduced yourself and asked your questions personally. So you ask however you want to, but we're going to let Josh and Richelle answer those questions. I asked Richelle if she had her accompaniment ready to sing for us. I don't know how to describe the look I got, but it was not positive. So there's no singing tonight, just getting to know Josh and Richelle. Cindy and I have had a lot of chance to deal with, to get to know them and really have enjoyed that and appreciate it. But this is your turn. So Josh and Richelle, I believe these seats are heated up. So you get the hot seats. Yeah. And so we're going to start just asking you to quickly introduce yourself again. How did you meet? And kids, what you do, that kind of thing. We heard from Josh some this morning, so Josh, but it's all yours. And if you leave something out, I'll throw it in. I'll ask you.
Do you want to go first, or do you?
Sure. All right. Well, I'm Richelle. I'm a school teacher. I teach special education. I've done kinder and second before as well, and I do special education in elementary school. So I work with K through 5 now. Well, I guess he wants us to tell you the story of how we met. Years ago, I started a folk band just for fun. Have written poetry, like writing lots of music too, and had all this poetry that I wanted to turn into song. And so I put an ad out on Craigslist, and so Josh responded to the ad and came and auditioned, and that's actually how we met. So technically Craigslist, but not in the way you would think. So, yeah, so that's how we met. Children? Yeah, we've got 2. You saw them up there on the screen. Jesse is 4. He'll be 5 in January, and then Joey is 2. He just turned 2 in August. So.
Yeah, and Joey's really interesting because he was born 34 weeks, so he was a preemie baby, and you would not be able to tell that he was a preemie baby. He was walking at 10 months. He climbs on everything, likes to dangle from our island and scare us, dangle his feet above on the stairs and scare us. But yeah, both of us are originally from Illinois, as I said earlier. I grew up in Aurora, Illinois, which our only claim to fame is 30% of Wayne's World was shot in that town. So there's like some shots that I do remember and see, and I go like, yeah, I know that location. The rest of it, I can probably was shot in Hollywood. But a little bit about how I came to faith. I grew up in a Christian home, and it was about I was about 8 or 9 when I was reading the Bible, and well, I should say at 8 or 9 I wasn't reading it. I just saw it and thought, that is a very large book. I'm going to skip to the end of the book to find out how the book ends, and so I flipped to the end of the book, opened it, read the last few chapters of Revelation, and you're reading the chapter about the defeat of Satan. That's cool. And then you're reading the part about whoever's name is not written in the book of life is thrown into the lake of fire and tormented day and night forever and ever. And so as an 8 or 9-year-old, I'm sitting there going like, that seems, forever's a long time. Fire hurts. How do I get out of that and get into the book of life? And so I asked my dad, and my dad led me in prayer, and that's when I came to a saving faith in Jesus. So I kind of joke that fire insurance is what got it, but in reality I really did think that is something that I do think I think about when I think about the eternal destiny of people, is that they have, that is the end result for those who don't believe in Christ. And it's important for us to be that salt and light to share the gospel with them. And then around, so I went to college, as Mike mentioned too. I got a bachelor's degree in music performance from McNally Smith College of Music. I kind of want to say don't bother looking it up because the school no longer exists, unfortunately. But it was some of the best years I had in my life, just hanging around different musicians and just the different genres that I got to experience there. There were a lot of music artists that I wouldn't have discovered if I hadn't been at that school. Artists that really have influenced my musical taste. And during that time, I was going to Bethlehem Baptist Church, John Piper's church, and I served on their worship team. In high school, I had served on the worship team as well too. But it was during that time at Bethlehem that I really started seeing and getting the sort of the urge to do worship music. And the pastor there really pushed the idea of having a worship pastor be somebody who is theologically strong and can understand and want to have the same mindset that the pastor wants to have, but also have the creative side of a musician, because he felt that there was a big divide between, and I'm sure some of you have seen it, the divide between somebody who is creatively gifted but not theologically sound, and then there's the opposite where they're theologically sound but there's no creativity to it. So he really stressed the idea of being the best of both, and so that was something that was really impressed on me. And so I served on that worship team, have led several different worship teams, youth camps, from just me on an acoustic guitar to a full band. And I was really shocked when we did a jam session a few weeks earlier with the worship team, and I was really shocked to see that there was 10 singers on your worship team. I was like, I've never seen 10 singers on one worship team, and I've heard that there's more. So, can this be like a recruitment too? Can there be people recruited too? So, yeah, that's kind of a bit about me.
Richelle, what's your musical involvement or background? You said you were starting a folk band, so do you sing, play an instrument?
Sing and write. That's really my gifting, is writing. I write all sorts of things. Currently working on a trilogy, but writing is my gifting, and I do enjoy singing. I know Josh has tried to drag me up on this stage a few times, but he's been unsuccessful. Maybe one day. But yeah, so that's sort of my musical background. Nothing formal or anything, just for fun. So, but spiritual background, I unfortunately did not grow up in a Christian home. My mother grew up Jehovah's Witness, and that really turned her off of religion altogether, unfortunately. My dad grew up Catholic, but really didn't practice. And so we really grew up in sort of an agnostic situation, I guess you could say. Just sort of find your path, whatever you figure out is good for you. And of course, that led to a lot of, tough times growing up as a kid and then into my teens, just, searching for God, essentially. That's what you do. And it was probably right around college is when I started truly seeking the Lord. Ended up at Willow Creek Community Church. It's a big mega church out in Barrington, Illinois, and it's a really fantastic place, and I grew. That's where it really started, is at that church. Bill Hybels baptized me there, and that's where I started plugging in with the community. I worked with the youth, the junior high ministry, got involved with some of their, they were doing World Vision, marathon running, and so I did some of that with them and raised money for World Vision and sponsored children through there, and that was kind of the beginning of my journey into my faith. So and it just continued to grow from there.
All right, thank you. We have a question from one of our students about your involvement with the student ministry band, and what kind of involvement could you see? Is that something that interests you? Would you plan on having some kind of involvement? What would you tell them?
That's like the 5th time this question's been asked within the last 24 hours.
But they haven't heard the answer.
I know, they haven't heard the answer. Yes, I would be involved. My prior job, I not only was the contemporary worship leader, but I was also the youth director as well, too. And so I was picking songs and leading them in worship and stuff like that. And so I would definitely love to be involved with that, help kind of train and help guide them, because there might be that 1 or 2 people that are interested in doing worship ministry or kind of want to get their feet wet in that world and just see what that environment's like. And I'd definitely like to have that mentor-mentee relationship. So yeah. So yes, the answer is yes. I would be involved.
So yes, you would be willing to be involved with the youth band or student band and in a coaching, or are you going to take it over? Are you going to be the lead singer? How do you?
I would not. I would like the students to take kind of the helm on that and kind of make it their own. I would definitely coach them and be there and help them. If there's a level where it's like, hey, we kind of just want you to guide it for a period, but and then we'll take over it. But I would really want the students to take charge of it and make it their own. And even on that end too, like I would encourage the students, like if they want to sing on Sunday morning, to come and sing on Sunday morning too. I don't technically have like an age like cutoff for youth to join the worship band too. So because at our current church that I'm leading worship at, we have 3 students actually on the worship team that sing and play. So I would encourage both on Sunday to join and again help them out on Wednesday nights as well.
All right, so away from the youth band, but you said you had students at your church on your Sunday morning adult worship team.
Yeah.
So would you anticipate intentionally building a more diverse team generationally? What kind of team do you anticipate having on Sunday morning?
Well, 10 singers, that's a lot of singers to juggle.
Not all at once.
No, it's actually really cool to see the feedback that we've gotten from having the younger people up on the stage. The students up there too. The students, I remember the first Sunday that we did it, their friends were actually really excited to see their friends up on stage. And the parents and the adults were like really, really ecstatic for that. They were excited to see the students involved in that. And so I would definitely have it mixed. I would definitely, the way I've been doing it is I've had 1 student and 1 adult singer and kind of paired them together. That way then the adult can kind of help kind of guide them, and especially female singers, having that ability to, hey, sing lead, sing harmony, do some of those different things, and So that's how I would do it. I would approach it as like pair them with somebody. I wouldn't stick like two female students on the stage and they're both like not sure of it. I would pair them with somebody who is confident to do it. So
What about the rest of the team? What would be your vision for the kind of team and what it would look like for fellowship?
I would want the are you talking about like the worship band or
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, I am.
I want them to feel that they can have a place to express themselves musically, and just that we can grow as a team. And the thing that I really would like to do at some point is start to and we've talked about this, her and I, is write our own worship songs, but specifically for the church that we're serving at. And I think it would be really cool for our worship team to have something of their own that they can look at and say like, hey, I like this song, I was a part of that song. This isn't just a song that we're playing on the radio. This is a song of our own that like we put together as a team. And so I do want some of that, and then I also want, again, I because the role is pastoral, I do see it as my own little small group of people that I am shepherding. I will be upfront. I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers to everything, but my role is to be a servant leader to those people, and that would be the thing that I would try and be to them.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about knowing everything Richard does. Do you have a goal for fellowship? What, as you envision coming here in ministry, what would be your goal or desires to see here at fellowship?
One of the things her and I have talked about is just growing, having roots in a church and having roots in a community. We really we want to grow not only for ourselves, but we also want a place for our boys to plug in, build relationships, and build friends. And one of the neat things that I do like about this church is that it's a family, it's a generational church. There's people from, there's grandparents, there's parents, there's sons, and there's this generational thing, and that's really what the church should be. And so for us, our vision is hoping that like we can plug in and connect like that, and our boys can have that as well too. Do you want to add anything to that?
Okay. And Joe Beth wants to ask a question. I want to follow up a little bit on this one more time. So your ministry at Fellowship, what would be your vision for your ministry here? What would you like to see your ministry accomplish here at Fellowship? And I know that's a quick, easy, come on, off the cuff. Yeah.
I know I don't know how much he prefaced you, but he did say that if he is aware that I do take a few seconds too long to answer questions. So if I'm not answering quick, it's because my brain is trying to work at this moment.
Yeah. So what we have to explain a little more carefully. Joshua actually thinks before he talks, unlike the rest of the staff. So.
In terms of vision for me, I want to just build a healthy worship ministry. Something that when I know I will have to retire eventually at some point. That you think about how Paul is with I've been thinking about it recently with how Paul is with his letters. When he's writing the letters to Corinthians and Galatians, it's very much like he's in the thick of it. But when you get to Timothy, there's a sense of like, I am trusting you with this. Now go, Timothy. My time is up. And I would want to build a healthy worship ministry so that when I do eventually move out of it, that it is healthy enough that I know that the people I'm entrusting it to, the people that have come in and joined, the people who are still there, can continue to keep that vision going. So.
Well, I wanted to say first that I am going to vote for you, so I wanted you to know that. Secondly, I really appreciated the words you used this morning in the service, kind of guiding us and directing us, and I really appreciated that personally. So with compliments like that, I want to ask a question. I would love to know how you put together a worship service. It sounds like you pick 4 songs and you play it, and you do it, and that's about an hour's worth of work or something. But I'm sure there's more than that, and I'd love to hear what you do as a worship to prepare for a worship here or with the youth or wherever.
It's actually easier than that. It's you do what you do with the Bible. You open the Bible and you just point to a passage, and you're like, "That's what I'm going to preach on." No, the way that I really like to do it is I like to sit and read. Specifically, the way that I operate, I like to read the text that Mike is going to be preaching on, or at least the theme that he's going to be preaching on. And the pastor that I work with, that's kind of that's the system that we've done. And I like to, what we both do is we think through the text and think, what are the songs that could help kind of edify that message? And so I do know the feeling of it. It is easy at some point to just kind of go like, all right, we haven't done these songs in like 3 months. Let's just throw them in there. But there is a thoughtfulness that has to go into picking songs that go with the. I'm more of that where it can go with the message, and so for me, I think about it at least a day or two, reading the passage, studying the passage. That way, then both the pastor and I are on the same page in terms of what we're thinking that we want the songs to be when I pick them. So yeah, it's not like a sundial spin where I just spin it and just go like, yep, that we're doing that song.
I have a question here, and I don't have everybody's phone numbers in my tablet, so I'm not sure from whom. But it says, if you were hired, how long do you plan on staying at this church?
There you go, that's the answer.
Do what?
There you go, that's the answer. Somebody said retire.
How old do you plan to be when you retire?
I as long as the Lord keeps breath in my lungs. I don't know. I'll be honest. I haven't thought of that.
Okay, you haven't considered how long, or so what's your mindset about what you expect duration?
Well, I think it goes back to us wanting to have roots in not just the church community, but with our children growing in the ministry as well here and getting involved. And so I don't think we have any intention to go anywhere. I mean, if that's the Lord's will, then that's the Lord's will. But we want that for our children. When I was growing up as a child, we moved constantly, and so I never got to have community. I never got to stay at a school long enough, build relationships and friendships long enough, and it's hard. It's very hard. That's something that we want for our children and for ourselves too, to grow, with the congregation spiritually. Our children grow up in the church, so I don't think we have any intention of going anywhere unless God's will. Okay,
so basically your answer is you have considered coming and growing roots. You haven't considered leaving. So there's not a sense of, I'll be here 5 years. It's just we're coming. We'll see what happens.
With us for a while,
Yeah. Yeah. Never mind. Okay. All right. I'm not really sure I understand this question, so let me try. When playing songs on stage, how much would you allow to be changed about them? Do you want to play exactly like the original song, or would you tweak it a little?
It depends on what I'm trying to do for that particular set. So a good example would be is when we did, at the church I'm leading worship at now, we will sometimes have what is called our coffee house setup. And so what we'll do is we'll do songs that we would normally do with a full band. We actually kind of do them smaller. We'll do, our drummer will pull out some percussion instruments. I'll play mainly acoustic as opposed to electric. We might have a keyboard player, but it's mainly designed to just kind of be more coffee house setup. So I'm not a strict adherent to the recording. That's where kind of my musical brain kind of kicks in, and in a good way that I do it is with hymns. The hymns are written simple enough that they can kind of just be made our own, and so I'm not 100% married to like one arrangement specifically. So and it always depends on just what I'm trying to do for that specific Sunday. So.
All right, so you may tweak it, you may not, depending on the goal of the worship service.
Yeah. Well, and a good example was the song Today Death Was Arrested. The version that I originally got when I downloaded the song was a different arrangement than the one that we did Sunday. So I had to adjust to that. So.
Okay. Sarah Hicks, Joe Best's daughter, asked the question, where do you see celebration through music on Sunday mornings? Some worship songs lend themselves to being more upbeat. Do you incorporate opportunities for that or for celebration? Where does celebration fit in the worship?
Like celebratory songs.
I'm assuming, where do you see celebration through music on Sunday morning? Well, there's a microphone right here.
Hi, feels weird using a mic when you're like right here. Okay, since you brought up the song Death Was Arrested, that song within our church usually is a little faster and just a little more upbeat, which is fine. See, this is all awkward. I don't want to step on your toes. And so I was just curious if in general, I would consider that a celebratory song with a little more energy than it was today. So is that in general how when you find a kind of song like that, do you tend to tone it down and make it a little softer? Or was it because that was what the best fit was for this morning?
It was because that was what was best for this morning. There's been a few times where I've changed sometimes what might help with that sometimes is changing the key to a song. So. Yeah, the way that we did it this morning, it was a lot lower for myself because obviously I am a tenor. Mm-hmm. If you can't tell from my voice, I'm a tenor. I'm a very high-pitched singer.
Person, so. Okay.
I sing very high. No, my voice can't sit with a lot of those higher songs, so sometimes I might lower it, and that might end up happening. Other instances, for example, the song "How Deep the Father's Love for Us." Normally, if I'm on acoustic, I've done it in D, which makes it in a lower key, which makes it more reflective. But then I did it in a higher key for a service, for invitation, and it came across more celebratory. So sometimes what might happen is if I change the key signature, raise the pitch a bit, I make it higher, that might end up dictating how it sounds too. And I would also there's some really good upbeat songs. There's one that I'm really listening to. I would highly recommend it, Psalm 98 by Shane and Shane, where they just take Psalm 98 and just put it to music, and it's awesome. We've done it. It's a great song. So yeah, sometimes it might be the key, the range that I'm doing it in might feel that way, and that might be where it ends up being a little bit more down, but it's not. The intention wasn't to make it down as like a reflective. It was more so just that might end up being just how my voice sits with the song.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Josh, I think, so this morning was very reflective, and you are a very reflective person. Where is celebration and upbeat and celebratory in the worship? How often do you do that? Where do you see that as vital?
And again, it kind of goes back to the how you set up the worship songs. So we might do an upbeat song at the end. Like there's a song called "Jesus Is Alive" by City of Light that I think would go great in either the response section after a sermon or even before a sermon too. It's a lot more upbeat. It's all about singing that Jesus is alive and that we go out into the night and being the light, to those around us. And so, again, it goes back to, I think, how you want to shape the service. And if you and I are talking and we're like, hey, let's put a more upbeat here at the end here. Cool, let's do it.
What if I say, hey, this week the sermon is just very upbeat, and I want a really celebratory, upbeat worship service? Do you have an issue with that?
Nope.
Okay. Does he have an issue with that?
I think so.
Okay. I know who to ask to get the truth. So, Brandon, you had a question? Go ahead, Brandon.
Really appreciated your definition this morning of worship, the D.A. Carson summary. So you've been influenced by D.A. Carson, and then you've just recently mentioned Shane and Shane. Who are some other artists that have shaped you as a worship pastor and as a musician? And how do you see that playing out here at Fellowship? Thank you.
Definitely City of Light is a group out in Australia. I discovered them maybe 2 years ago. They're more of a late influence. Sovereign Grace out in, I believe it's Maryland, was another one that played an influence on me. A good friend of mine who is a worship pastor also really liked Paul Baloche, and so he's played a influence on me as well too. I'm trying to think of others. Shane and Shane definitely one. If you want to go the more guitarist route, Phil Kagi was a Christian guitarist that I really like listening to. Some of Phil Wickham's stuff. Matt Boswell and Matt Papa. Actually, the song that we sang today, the new one, "Come Behold the Wondrous Mystery," that's a Matt Boswell song. That's another album that they did that I would highly recommend. I've done a lot of songs off that album, so that's a few. Matt Boswell, some of Shane and Shane stuff. I ain't gonna sing like them, but and then some of Chris Tomlin stuff. I'll mention him too. Chris Tomlin has definitely played an influence as well too. So.
This is a more logistics, how you do business week to week. What is the time frame for scheduling singers, band members, having songs ready for a rehearsal that week?
The way that we've been doing it and I like this format, and I would carry it over at the church I'm at now, is that we try to schedule the band members the third week of the month for the following month. So if it was the third week of November, I'm scheduling the band for December. And then we try to have the songs all picked out for that month, and that way then they know when they're playing, what they're playing. I'll try and get them everything in the right key for that week as well too. So I would carry it over where, I would typically have a month planned out the third week of the prior month, so that way then they're getting reminders, or they can go online and just start practicing on the songs ahead of time.
So the shortest would be 10 days, a week to 10 days ahead of time.
Yeah.
If you are the first of the month.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm playing all next month. But basically, you're going to know what's up for that month a week or 10 days ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like that because it makes my life easier because then I can actually like think through the songs theologically too. So it's good.
Okay. Have you ever taught a congregation how to do family worship or personal devotional worship? And if you did, how?
I'll admit I have not.
Okay, fair enough. Is that something you would be open to working on with our church family?
Yes.
Okay. When you were in your car, office, or on your headphones, who do you listen to?
Barry Manilow. Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's when you're on your medication.
No, and getting to know the worship band, a lot of I'll listen to worship music, but I'll also listen to a lot of blues music, a lot of acoustic music, a lot of folk music too. A lot of the music I tend to gravitate towards, obviously, because I got a bachelor's in guitar performance. My music is going to gravitate towards guitar. Not that I don't like any other forms of music, but I tend to gravitate towards those types of styles. So some instrumental music as well too. It kind of really just depends on what flavor I want in the moment.
Maybe this will work as a follow-up to the two prior questions, but you mentioned worship being more than just the time up here singing. So how would you lead the congregation or teach the congregation how to live a lifestyle of worship? And then kind of to extrapolate that, how would you lead the worship team to do the same?
If you have any more you can ask, that's fine too. Okay. Yeah, no, I think part of that is going to come by just interacting with the worship team and everybody on in more of a community aspect. I can't really like stop a worship set and actually like teach that in the middle of a music set. Really, I think where that's going to come into play is being with you guys and hanging out time and homes and in life groups and things like that. So I think it's more going to be built in community where that's going to be seen. And I think that's kind of also one thing I actually enjoy most about doing worship ministry is those times where it's like after practice, hey, we're going to go hang out here, cool. And we get to hang out with each other and just either share a meal or just do something together. I think that's where you're going to see the kind of that reflection of worship as a lifestyle where it's more life on life relationship building.
Great job.
I'm Joe Cobb. It seemed like I remember somewhere or another that in the past you posted the songs, I guess the music or whatever for the songs that are going to be sung that Sunday so that people could hear them and know what was going on so that when we got here we'd already been reflecting on it. Am I correct on that? Yeah. You plan on continuing to do that?
Yeah, the way that we do it at the church I'm at now is we'll post it on either Facebook or Instagram or both, I should say. And then what we'll do is we'll actually also make a Spotify playlist. And it's not just for the week, it's for the month. So that Spotify playlist, you just hit the link on it and it'll take you to the Spotify playlist. So all the songs for that month that we do, you actually can just listen to. So that would be, I would post the songs ahead in time, yeah.
I have a couple of people asking the same question. What is prompting, where are you right now? Tell us where you're serving, and what is prompting a possible move to fellowship?
Some of you need to ask questions for her. Right now I'm serving at a church plant called Emmanuel Baptist Church. It's a little bit north of where we're at right now, which is Kingwood. It's in New Caney. And Right now, I've been serving as their worship leader since April. So my first Sunday was actually Easter Sunday, and I've been serving there. And really, what makes me want to one of the reasons is I'm looking for full-time ministry. The job is part-time, and I'm looking for a full-time opportunity to not only use my musical background, but use my theological degree and pastoral training to help people and build a worship team and fulfill that vision. So,
All right, I'm going to ask one more question for you, and then I'll ask a question for both of you. And it's the question that you have been asked on multiple occasions. What is your opinion about songs by Bethel, Hillsong, your perspective on traditional hymns? And that's actually about 3 different questions that I've condensed. So, traditional hymns, Bethel, and Hillsong.
As far as for the traditional hymns, I actually, for a summer, led a small church with nothing but a hymnal and my acoustic guitar. That was it. That's all I had. That's what they sang out of. That's what I led out of. And it was really awesome. I enjoyed it. It gave, because growing up, I knew some of the more popular ones, like How Great Thou Art, Great Is Thy Faithfulness, all those. But then going through that hymnal, I got to see a lot of songs that I hadn't heard before. My Jesus, I Love Thee, Lead Me to Calvary, This Is My Father's World, We Rest on Thee. Some of those hymns that like I'd never really heard or sung before was a great way to actually introduce that. And I really like the hymns because, as I said earlier, they're written in a way where where a worship team can really make them their own, and can kind of have their own spin on it. And so I think that's the great part about hymns. And so if the question is leading towards would I do them, yes, I would do them. As far as the Bethel and Hillsong thing goes, I personally am gravitating towards not doing those songs because of the teaching that they have pushed. And it's hard because I understand that a lot of their songs, they do cut the Christian smell test. Like when you read the lyrics, you go, that's theologically sound. But I don't feel that with where they're coming from theologically, teaching-wise, that it's healthy for a church to continue doing those. And on top of that, there's enough music out there, worship music out there, that we can do. And on top of that, then I would say, like, all right, well, let's just write our own.
No pressure.
Yeah. So I would say, like, I'm steering away from doing those things. And I'll use this as an example so that way that it makes it a little bit clearer, like how I've thought through it. When the song Reckless Love came out, I originally was playing it at a church. Pastor came up to me and said, hey, like, some people are having a problem with the word reckless. Can you please not do it? And him and I both talked about it, and at the time I was okay still doing it, but out of respect for the people that brought issue with it, and for him, I said, hey, don't worry, I won't do it. You know, if it's going to cause that much of a stink for the congregation to sing it, I won't do it. So at that point, I had no issue with it. But then I'm talking with the pastor that I'm currently working with. Him and I are talking through it, and him and I were as I was talking to him, I said, if you look at how the Psalms are written, David is going, saying, my God, why aren't you there? Why aren't you there? But we know theologically God is there. We know he's there present with David and in his suffering and stuff like that. And the pastor said, yes, that's true. But the difference is that David goes from saying that to then saying his God is there. Whereas the writer of Reckless Love continues to call God's love reckless. And so him kind of working through that with me kind of go, okay, now I see how the writer is thinking through it and how that kind of that theme of reckless love continues, and therefore then now I don't even consider doing it at all. So that to just kind of help see how I think through songs and kind of how I, So if the question is like if you want to talk to me about lyric content, I'm more happy to do so, because there are things that I will miss and not see.
Okay. And this is for you, Richelle, and for both of you. Give us a personal experience from your life with specific answered prayer. What is some ways God answered a specific prayer in your life or family, or you have seen God guide you specifically?
Well, I think just even with our children, we prayed for Jesse, and God answered that prayer. And I think probably one of the more powerful times of prayer was when we had Jesse and we were praying for Joey, and being able to pray with Jesse and hear his cute little voice praying to God for a brother or sister, and for him to see that as an answered prayer. That just comes to mind. But I think God has blessed us in a multitude of ways, and sometimes we forget them. Just even praying about, we were from Illinois originally, and praying about our move here, and God answering that prayer and opening doors and opportunities for us. Josh was looking for a seminary school, and I was looking for a teaching position, and it worked out. He was able to find a good school, and I was able to get into a good school teaching. So I think he's answered so many of our prayers. So he is faithful and continues to answer a lot of our prayers.
She stole the Joey and Jesse answer. I was going to say that as my answer. No, but even before that, just when I was single, I was praying for God to bring me the next I prayed this specifically. I said, the next person I'm going to date is going to be my spouse. And that's what happened. And at the time, I was keeping a journal that I was specifically writing for said future spouse, and it was just journal entries of encouragement and things like that, and just praying, saying, "Hey, I'm praying for you," and just hoping that when we meet, God guides us in all of this. And that was something I handed to her a month before we were married. So that was an answer to prayer.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really special. I still have it.
My wife's now going to get on me for not doing things like that. So
Well, you better start journaling now.
just want you to know I appreciate you putting me in that position, just saying. So, Richelle, as a pastor's wife, and we understand completely as a church, we are hiring a worship pastor, not a pair of worship pastors, that your gifts and abilities. But where do you see yourself fitting in the role of a pastor's wife and in the life of the church?
Just having a background in education, I, would love to help out in the children's ministry. Like I mentioned before, I've worked with the youth ministry as well, with Willow Creek, and so I'm really, wherever I'm needed, I'm more than happy to help where that need is. So yeah, I'm pretty open to wherever I'm needed.
Could you see any special, as a pastor's wife, you can be in the spotlight, sort of on a pedestal. How do you see yourself fitting or adjusting to some of those demands?
I guess I'm pretty easygoing, so I just see us involved with small groups, morning Bible studies, like I said, children's ministry, youth ministry, whatever it might be. And even if it's just outside of that ministry, just that community, the conversations that we have together in homes or here, at church, in between times and things that we have to do, just praying for people, being there for people, knowing that, my home is your home, and vice versa. We mentioned community, and we really mean that. It's not just a word that you throw around. We really mean that it's family, and so that's what we're hopeful for, is that we're a part of a family, and you're a part of our family. I hope that answered that question.
No, that's fine. And I'm sorry, I'm juggling. Some people have evidently missed the beginning. I have somebody asking us to tell us how y'all met. Sorry, but you're going to have to watch the recording on that one because we went through that. The short list is they met as a result of a Craigslist ad. So, so I'm sorry, I can't, Bev Hudson says, how would you personally describe a heart of a worshiper, and do you see yourself in a teaching format of what worship is? So I think you may have sort of answered that, but if you would not mind exploring that a little more.
Can you repeat the question?
I can. Would I?
Yeah, can you repeat the
yeah,
question?
yeah. How would you personally describe a heart of a worshiper? And do you see yourself in a teaching format of what worship is? So aside from
here,
leading worship, would you see yourself teaching what worship is in some other format?
To that, yes. That actually is something that eventually, outside of doing this, I would like to do is teach in either a Bible college or something to that format about worship and about worship ministry. I still feel, at least before that even happens, I need more years under my belt to do that. But I would definitely like to teach in that format. And then the first part, the heart of a worshiper. I think the question is asking what is the heart of a.
The question is, how would you personally describe a heart of a worshiper?
Okay. Again, I think it's going back to that that 24/7 lifestyle, doing this, having a life that's oriented around God. A good when I was doing the spiritual disciplines class, this kind of gave a glimpse to how that would look. We had to pick a discipline to do for our final, and the discipline I chose was the Benedictine prayer cycle. So every 3 hours, you had to stop whatever you're doing and go through a cycle of prayers. So, and it was all day. So that meant at 12 o'clock at night, my alarm had to go off, and I had to get up, go to a separate room, pray. 3 a.m. hit, alarm went off, got up and did that. She did not like that.
I remember.
But what it did is, but the point of it is to show that it was a life. It was to orient the person's heart, soul, and mind around God. And what it kind of taught me was that that's how worship is to be. And so the heart of a true worshiper is again that 24/7 lifestyle. Does that mean that we're always on cloud nine with our head, kind of happy? No, but it does mean that our hearts are continually, through the day focusing on God.
Okay. And I'm not sure you described this in this format, but you had talked in a couple of our discussions or some of the interviews about a coffee shop style feel of worship that you have done. So tell us what that is, and then some other creative worship elements you might have used or you would like to use.
Yeah, so the coffee house idea is more so like acoustic guitar, piano, maybe some percussion instruments. It's basically more of a stripped down version of a lot of songs that have a lot of instruments. I would like to do some, in terms of genre stuff, I would definitely like to do, and it sounds like there's people here that can do it, but more folk stuff with, maybe a little bit more bluegrass stuff with fiddle and some of that stuff. Trying some different genres that we can just try and see what we can do with it.
Okay.
So.
Do you have any ideas or creative ideas for just the format of the worship service, or how it might be sequenced, or sequences of elements?
It depends. Sometimes we do. Sometimes I like doing the way we do it at Emmanuel, and I at least like this one element that they do is they will do either a song or two at the top, but then we'll have a time of pastoral prayer where we'll actually go through some stuff and pray through things, specific needs for the church, specific needs for missionaries and things like that that the church is supporting. And that's one element that I do like, and something that at some point, and I wouldn't say, hey, Mike, you need to go do this pastoral prayer, but even just having a time, in the middle of the service where we can have like, hey, let's have just a time of prayer where we're doing that. You can come to the front here, kneel, and we don't play at all. It's a time of just
Praying.
Quiet reflection and prayer. And so that's one element I like to do. I've tried doing some other elements, such as either reading a creed. I've done some stuff out of the book Valley of the Vision, the Puritan prayer book. I've done stuff out of that. And so sometimes it can be a little awkward because you want people to read it, and we all do the monotone reading of Scripture as we like to do sometimes. So yeah.
Okay, but you're open to creativity, variety, in
I'm not. My fear, if you do this thing the same way, is that it becomes stale.
Okay.
And so, will it be every week is something is completely different? No, but there will be times where it's like, hey, let's try this. Let's
Okay.
try and see what happens when we do this.
Okay. Do you ever want to preach?
Yeah, I've done preaching before.
No, that wasn't the question. Question was not, have you done preaching before? The question was, well, would you be open to preaching occasionally?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Just don't like ask me to preach on eschatology or some crazy theology. Richard knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, I've been in that situation before where in a series, every time we got to the controversial passage, the pastor went out of town and I ended up preaching it.
Yep.
So yeah, and now I just preach the controversial topics every week, so I'm okay with that. Describe a little more about that coffee house style in a traditional Sunday morning, and what are the advantages to some of these different genres of worship? Would you do them just because they're different, or why would you use those different genres?
Sometimes it can help focus. It can speak to somebody differently. There's a version of, for example, the way that Jennifer and Donna did Beneath the Cross of Jesus. It was great. There's a version that I like that is more folky, and I think it does a good job with the lyrics, and so I think different genres kind of can help emphasize and change the way we look at a song versus either a popular version of it. It can definitely, because it's if a popular version, for example, has a guitar solo, everybody's just thinking of the guitar solo, but if you actually strip everything back, then it's okay, now we can focus on the lyrics in a certain way. So I think that genres can help kind of change how we look at the song and also how we think about the song. So
Okay, it's another part of keeping it fresh and keeping people thinking about it rather than just rote memory.
yeah.
Okay. Coffee house style, I know what you're talking about from our discussions. Exactly what is that you said? A guitar, a piano, maybe some acoustics. Why? What would be the purpose, or when would you use that?
The purpose, I would go back to that, stripping the songs down where you're kind of you're essentially taking the production factor that can almost play a factor when you're trying to do a fuller band. I think stripping it down to where it's just bare bone band, a couple vocalists, it can again change the way that we look at a song. and kind of put and I guess put the worshiper in a position where they have to, I like this version with a full band, but now it's making me think differently about the song now that it's stripped back a bit in terms of instrumentation.
So it's a simplified, smaller group, simplified version of worship to sort of take away some of the bigger production kind of aspects of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lyrics go forward in that context, is that right?
So Richard's question or
Yeah.
comment was that lyrics are pushed forward in that context.
Both, I would say in both contexts, but this one, but in the coffee house version, it's even more so. Let's get them out there.
Tell us about your family devotional prayer times. So what do you do individually in spiritual life disciplines, and what do you do as a family?
You can go.
Well,
I've answered.
we do Bible study with our
come on up here,
boys
'cause I didn't see
as
you
best
back
as
there.
they will allow because they're still little. We've got several versions of children's Bibles, and we actually have a small devotional daily Bible with them as well that we try to do as long as their attention will allow. And then for ourselves, we have done book studies with one another. And just prayer throughout the day, before meals, at night, with the boys. We've done some book studies together, Josh and I. So.
What are y'all doing? What are you doing individually?
Individually, I am currently reading, and the title is escaping me. It's a book by Wendy Pope right now. I think it's Wait and See. Just in this transitional period right now where we are, it just seemed very fitting, and so that's what I've been reading through. So that's, yeah. And I mean, just, I guess throughout the week I listen to sermons, podcasts, things like that as well, aside from just worship music, just to continue to be fed.
Okay. Josh?
And I'll typically, I have a Bible plan that I do. I've been doing it 12 years now. I've lost track. It's the Navigator's reading plan where you do 2 in the old and 2 in the new. You get 25 readings in a month, and you just read through it. I want to say I've done it at least 12 times now, or at this point. I lost track because it's been so many years. But that's what I'll typically do, and then I'll read something again out of the Valley of Vision. That's been kind of almost a mainstay in my devotional time, is reading through those Puritan prayers. And then I also keep a prayer journal that I'll journal in every day, and kind of go through prayer requests, either for ourselves, for church members and stuff like that, and kind of keep that in my life. And then book-wise, I'm reading, I'm halfway through it, is D.A. Carson's Worship by the Book. So I'm halfway through that book, and all that, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Shirley?
I'm Shirley McCauley, and it's obvious that I'm not on the younger end of the spectrum. I'm kind of in the multi-generational spectrum. I'm over here. But I love music, all kinds of music. And my church background was choral, and I miss that. And I know there are others in this church, who also miss that. Do you see opportunities at all for some of us who miss being able to participate, to do so maybe for Christmas or Easter or some other times?
Yeah. I didn't say this part in terms of my musical background. I actually was in choir in high school. I did some musical theater and that type of stuff too. So choir, and I did some choir in college, but at that point I'd started switching to guitar, and I made that my focus. So yes, definitely some of that I am familiar with that world, and I would definitely it seems like there is a want and a need for it, and I would definitely like to help foster that and help build that. And yeah, even on special occasions like Easter, Christmas, stuff like that, it's a great time for that to happen. So yeah.
several people text questions about choir and involvement. I think, how many times have you been asked that over the last, yeah?
A lot.
A lot. So, for those of you that want to ask if he is interested in having choirs and doing choir specials, the answer is yes. We are okay with, he's okay with that, and we'll be working towards that. I'm now getting some silly questions. I've got
Good,
one
I
more.
want the silly questions now.
We'll give you some silly ones here in a minute. Over the years, I've seen some involved in music ministry drift away from fellowship with Jesus because of not being plugged into a Sunday school class or a small group. What is your commitment to being plugged in? And then I would ask, how do you see yourself involved in ministries where you are being discipled and part of it?
And I think she's pointed to that too, of just wanting to be involved in those small groups. We had actually, we had started a small group, or a home group at our church, and we were leading that. We were actually going through the book of Genesis, and so I was actually building the lesson plans and teaching. So we would definitely be involved in home groups, or life groups, small groups. I don't know what you call them here. Is it?
Yeah, small groups,
Yeah.
life groups.
We would definitely be plugged in and involved, and even if I'm not teaching in that capacity, like that, when I walk into that, I am not the teacher just because I have the worship pastor title. That doesn't mean that I know better than the leader in there. I am the disciple at that point.
And for those of you that don't, I haven't had an opportunity to talk with Joshua about this, but we as a church are very aware that we need some more small groups, particularly for young families. I've got plans on the books to start new small groups in January for our young families, and I have already committed Joshua and Richelle to helping me do that, pending a positive vote. So they have been volunteered to assist and be involved with that. They just are waiting for you to vote yes so that I can tell them that's what they're doing. So just let y'all know.
She does the same thing too. She tells me I'm going to do something and I'm not aware of it yet, and then I end up having to do it.
Okay, will you arm wrestle Brandon?
No.
No. Fair enough. Okay, I have a couple of, here's Les Paul or Strat? That's two kinds of guitars, Les Paul or Strat Fender?
I own a Les Paul, so I think that should answer the question.
Okay. Do you own any skinny jeans?
No. Just so we clarify, you guys see my leg. That is not the skinny leg thigh. That is I need loose pants.
So
exactly.
How much of your leg is exposed by your most holy pair of jeans?
So I actually only, if they do rip, it's all because of wear and tear. After that, she makes me throw them away. Yes. So I have no holes in my jeans.
Yeah, me too. So I've got some very holy jeans because I wore them out, not because I spent money so somebody else could wear them out. Yeah. So, all right, Madeline.
So I wanted to ask, where are you working right now? You said you're a teacher?
Yes.
And what is the plan, like, if you guys get voted in, when would you move down here? Or would you move halfway? Or what is the plan there?
Yeah, so currently I work in Humble ISD, and I interviewed for a position, also special ed position here in Pearland, and they're holding the position for me right now. They understand the situation, and my current administrator also understands, and so that's kind of on hold right now, just kind of waiting to see how this all works out. And then as far as moving, there probably will be a little bit of a transitional period in the next couple weeks of just selling our home, and we do plan on moving here because, like we said before, we want to be a part of this community, and we can't do that living an hour or so away. So we want to live here near the church, among the congregation, and really plant those roots like we were talking about. So we would definitely move down. But yeah.
Okay, some of these questions, one is small groups for older adults. Yes, I recognize we have those needs, but that's not Joshua's job. So we will be working on expanding our small group ministry church-wide, not just for younger families. We've also answered, how involved is he planning on being in the youth? He will be involved with the youth band at their request, but he's also being hired as the worship pastor, and so that will be up to the student ministry. And we have a question on other performances, plays, musicals being a part of your ministry at Fellowship. So we talked about choir, but what about other special events? How about night of worship, plays, musicals, those kind of things?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to do a night of worship. Children's choir, I've had some experience in doing that. When I was younger, and as a kid, doing plays in church and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those things I would definitely be willing to do and to help and try and do, because I've seen back there you guys got stuff.
Okay.
You guys got stuff back there to do it.
Okay, yeah, we have lots of stuff. So I'm not sure what you're going to do with it, but we have a lot of it. So, all right, any questions that you would ask our church?
Do you want me to be in skinny jeans, yes or no? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that answer.
No, I don't have any questions.
I think just, throughout this process, we've been able to connect with a lot of you, and I think probably a lot of those questions have already been answered. We've felt more than welcomed, and just, really, really enjoyed getting to know a lot of you.
Okay. That is the last I have covered. We have covered at some level all of the questions that have been texted to me. Let's see, let me read one more. Okay, this was a question about children's ministry and choirs, which has been asked about 4 times and answered, so I won't make you answer that again tonight. I appreciate Josh and Richelle. We're going to go ahead and wrap up, let you guys have an opportunity to come and visit one-on-one and personally with them. I appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate Josh and Richelle. Richelle is, they've got to go pick up children from their grandparents' house before too long, but Richelle was very wise and took tomorrow off. So she has a recovery day before she has to go back to the classroom. But again, thank you very much, Josh and Richelle. You will be, so the congregational meeting to vote is next Sunday. I believe is it after the service or between? Between services, so it will be from 10:15 to 10:45. It's a simple yes or no vote. Last time we had several people write in that they abstained. Please understand, abstain is no. If you abstain, the Constitution requires a certain number of positive votes. So a no or an abstain is not a positive vote. So essentially, make your mind up, one way or the other, yes or no, and let us know. Vote your heart. I would encourage us as a church to be praying and seeking God's direction and discernment for us as we pursue adding staff. If you cannot be here, example, you're going to be on the Awana camp out or something, as always, absentee ballots and a link to absentee voting will be mailed out early in Joe Cobb's got some hard copies, but you will also be emailed the link to vote online. As always, the deadline will be Saturday night so that by Sunday we've got the quorum and the votes that we need. We want to hear from you. We want to be sensitive to the Spirit's guidance and doing what God would have us to do. So let me close this with the word of prayer, and then Brett, do you need help putting up tables and things? Nope, you got it? Bless you. So thank you, Brett, for covering all of those kind of things. We appreciate that. And the ladies that, we had a group of ladies, if you recall, this is not how it looked this morning when you left church. So a bunch of our teens and men and some ladies came in and made it look all nice for us this afternoon. Bob and Jeannie Seagraves made the cakes for us. So a lot of people. Let me pray, and let's pray together. Let's stand together as we please. And if you feel like joining hands with the people around you and around your table, let's stand unified before our God. Ethan, you chicken. I'm picking on you. I'm playing with Ethan. Father, we do stand before you hand in hand, not just physically, but spiritually. Our hearts are joined together and united as we seek your direction, your clear path forward in adding people to our church family and our staff, co-shepherds to care for your body and to lead us in worship, not just on Sunday mornings into your presence, but to help us understand and do that daily. And so, Lord, we ask for Josh and Richelle for clear guidance for them and that sense of your direction and presence and peace for our church as we go into that decision-making next week, that you would make it clear and that you would be honored, that you would be glorified, and that as we go in the years future and we look back at this time, we would see clearly how you have moved. So we commit this process to you. We commit Josh and Richelle to you. We commit this church to you. In the name of Jesus, and may we honor him. Amen. And good night. Thank you very much.